He never expected to follow a bear into the forest, but when he did, the sight that greeted him made him question everything he knew about the wild. The forest seemed alive in a way he had never noticed before. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, made his heart pound harder. He had been walking along the forest edge, enjoying the solitude, when he saw it, a massive brown bear, its fur catching the last rays of the setting sun, standing still just a few meters from a fallen log. His breath caught in his throat. He froze. The bear's dark eyes met his briefly, assessing, calculating, as if it could read his every intention. His instincts screamed to retreat, to leave quietly, but something deeper, something he couldn't explain, rooted him in place. The bear didn't move, didn't charge, just watched. And yet, the weight of its gaze was undeniable, pressing on him in a way that made the air feel heavier. Slowly, he exhaled and reminded himself to stay calm. "Easy, easy," he whispered, barely audibly. The bear's ears twitched again, and it shifted slightly, pawing at the dirt in a deliberate, almost ritualistic way. That small movement sent a jolt of curiosity through him. Something about the bear's behavior was unusual. It wasn't foraging. It wasn't moving with the randomness of a wild animal. It seemed deliberate. His curiosity outweighed his fear. He began to step forward, carefully, testing the ground with light, silent steps. Every footfall was measured, deliberate, and yet each seemed deafening in the quiet of the evening forest. He could hear his own heartbeat echoing through his chest. As he drew closer, the bear paused, sniffing the air, then turned slightly to face the dense underbrush ahead. That's when he saw it, a patch of disturbed soil, a small glint catching the last fading light. The bear pawed at it again, uncovering something partially buried. The sight made his pulse spike. He crouched behind a thick fern, watching intently. For a long moment, neither moved. The human weighed his options, retreat or approach. Every rational thought told him to leave. Bears were dangerous. But something about the way the bear protected the spot, the deliberate precision in its movements, tugged at his curiosity. It was as if the bear was waiting for someone, or something, to arrive. Minutes stretched into eternity. He inched closer, keeping low, trying not to disturb the bear. He caught sight of paw prints, claw marks, and the faint outline of something rectangular under the disturbed soil. A box? He could barely believe it. His instincts screamed danger, yet something inside him, a mixture of awe, fear, and something almost spiritual, urged him onward. Then, suddenly, the bear stopped. Its massive head lifted, dark eyes locking onto his hiding spot. The air seemed to thicken. The human froze, every muscle tensed. Was it aware of him? Would it attack? Fear clawed at his chest, sharp and insistent. And then, just as abruptly, the bear returned its attention to the ground, pawing at the object with precise movements. It was protective, but not aggressive. He noticed this subtle distinction and allowed himself a cautious breath. His curiosity now outweighed even fear. He needed to see what the bear was guarding. The sunlight was nearly gone, leaving the forest in dim amber and shadow. He shifted slightly to get a better view. The bear's paw uncovered more of the object, revealing the edges of a weathered, moss-covered wooden box. His heart skipped a beat. This wasn't ordinary, this was something old, deliberate, something hidden. He crouched lower, examining every detail. The bear's gaze flicked toward him again, then back to the box. He realized, almost instinctively, that the animal wasn't threatening him, it was testing him. Perhaps it could sense his intentions, his respect for the forest, his patience. He could feel the silent communication between them, a fragile understanding forming without a word spoken. Time seemed suspended. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call, made the air feel electric. He inched closer, taking note of every movement. The box was intricate, its surface carved with faint symbols, barely visible in the dim light. Who had left it here? Why? And why was this bear guarding it with such intent? A flicker of movement behind him, a snapped twig, made him spin. His pulse spiked, and his breath caught. The bear immediately stiffened, head raised, ears forward. Its protective energy radiated through the clearing, a warning unspoken yet clear. He froze, caught between awe and terror, unsure if the snap of that branch would trigger a chase, or if the bear's calm would hold. The forest seemed to hold its breath with him. The bear's massive form loomed between him and the mysterious box, a silent guardian of secrets buried in the earth. He realized that this encounter was more than chance, it felt orchestrated, as if fate had led him here. And as he crouched in the fading light, the glinting edges of the box beckoning, he made a decision. He would follow. Carefully. Respectfully. The night held dangers he didn't yet understand, and secrets that might change everything he knew about the wilderness, and the intelligence that lurked within it. He glimpsed the bear pause, pawing at the soil one last time, then looked back at him, almost inviting him to move forward. The forest seemed to close in around him as he took another careful step forward. Each leaf he brushed aside, each twig that cracked underfoot, felt like it would betray him to the bear. But the glint of the box, partially revealed under dirt and moss, held his attention like a magnet. He crouched lower, letting the fern shield him, and focused on the bear. The bear was massive, its muscles rippling beneath thick brown fur as it worked deliberately around the small patch of disturbed earth. Every movement was precise, calculated. It pawed at the soil with surprising delicacy for its size, uncovering the edges of the wooden box bit by bit. He could see the faint carvings etched into its surface, symbols he couldn't recognize, patterns that looked almost ritualistic. His mind raced with questions. Who had left this box here? Why would a bear guard it with such intensity? And why had it allowed him to approach so closely? Fear warred with curiosity inside him, each emotion clawing for dominance. He inched forward again, careful to place his feet on the soft earth where the bear hadn't stepped. A faint gust of wind rustled the leaves above, and the bear paused mid-paw, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the air. His heart leapt. Had it sensed him again? For a moment, he thought it might charge, but the bear instead returned its attention to the box, nudging it with a paw as if urging it open. He allowed himself a tentative breath. The bear wasn't aggressive, it was protective. But protective in a way he had never witnessed in the wild before. It wasn't a mother guarding cubs, it was guarding something far older, far more significant. And somehow, the bear knew. It seemed aware of what the box contained, aware of the human who dared approach. He crouched lower, keeping every muscle tense, and observed. A thin layer of moss slid away under the bear's paw, revealing more of the box. It was weathered, yet remarkably intact. The edges were smooth, worn from years, and the carvings were intricate, telling a story he couldn't yet read. His curiosity surged. He needed to see more. Taking a measured step, he moved closer, careful to remain low and slow. The bear lifted its head again, eyes locking with his. This time, he didn't flinch. Instead, he nodded slightly, almost instinctively, a silent acknowledgement of mutual understanding. The bear blinked once, then returned its attention to the box, pawing around it with deliberate care. He realized, with a mix of awe and apprehension, that this moment was fragile. One wrong move could shatter the delicate balance of trust forming between them. Yet the human instinct to uncover the mystery was overwhelming. He crouched just a little closer, inching toward the object of fascination. Then he noticed something odd, a faint glow emanating from the partially uncovered box. It wasn't bright, but it caught the last remnants of sunlight filtering through the trees, drawing his eye. His pulse quickened. Was it reflective metal? Or some ancient lacquer that had preserved the contents? He glanced at the bear. The animal's posture was calm, almost expectant. It wasn't moving the box violently or pawing at him, it seemed to understand that he was a witness, not a threat. The human's curiosity transformed into determination. He needed to see inside the box, to understand what the bear had been guarding all this time. Carefully, he crept closer still, his fingers brushing against leaves and damp soil as he adjusted his position. The bear, sensing the proximity, lifted its massive paw and gently nudged the box with the side of its muzzle. It was a clear gesture, proceed, but proceed carefully. A surge of adrenaline coursed through him. He reached forward, heart pounding, and lifted the edge of the wooden lid just enough to peek inside. There, wrapped in aged leather, lay a bundle of objects that made his breath catch: old letters, yellowed photographs, and a small medallion that shimmered faintly even in the dim light. The bear stepped back slightly, watching, as if giving him permission to inspect, but not to take. It was as if the animal understood the weight of history and the importance of what lay before them. A shiver ran down his spine. The forest had gone silent, the air thick with anticipation. He leaned closer, examining the letters. The handwriting was meticulous, the ink faded but legible. The photographs depicted people from decades past, faces that seemed frozen in time, holding smiles that had long since vanished into memory. His mind reeled. Who had left these here? Why? And how had the bear come to know their significance? He turned his gaze to the medallion, its surface engraved with names and dates. The craftsmanship was exquisite, delicate despite its apparent age. He could feel the weight of it in his hand, not just physically, but emotionally. It carried stories, memories, connections to people long gone. And somehow, the bear had been the guardian of these stories, ensuring they were not lost to time. A sudden noise, a twig snapping behind him, made him freeze. His heart leapt into his throat. The bear stiffened instantly, ears forward, muscles tensed. Its protective instincts flared, and he realized the danger of the forest at night. He slowly pivoted, scanning the shadows between the trees, unsure whether it was another human, a predator, or merely the forest playing tricks on him. The bear's low growl reassured him in a strange way. It was not aggressive toward him, but a warning to whatever, or whoever, was approaching. He felt a surge of gratitude for the animal's silent guidance. Without it, he might have been completely unaware of the threat behind him. Time seemed to stretch as he remained still, crouched in the damp forest floor, with the bear as both guardian and companion. The object in the earth, the letters, the medallion, they were more than discoveries. They were connections to the past, preserved by an intelligence that defied simple explanation. He realized, in that tense moment, that he had become part of something larger than himself. The bear was not just a wild animal, it was a guide, a protector, a bridge between the present and the past. His heart pounded, not just from fear, but from awe, from the profound realization of what he was witnessing. The bear suddenly lifts its head and sniffs the air toward him, then lowers it again, nudging the box as if silently saying, "The choice is yours." Twilight was settling over the forest, turning the canopy into a muted wash of deep greens and grays. Every detail was sharper now, the dampness in the soil, the fine hairs on the bear's coat, the way the medallion in the box caught what little light remained. The human remained crouched behind a thick tree trunk, holding his breath, watching every subtle motion. His pulse was steadying, yet he felt the electric tension in the air, the kind that comes when life and history collide in a single moment. The bear had shifted. Now, instead of pawing at the box, it had settled beside it, sitting on its haunches, massive head tilted slightly. Its breathing was calm, but alert, every muscle primed. The man noticed the gentle rise and fall of its chest, the way its ears swiveled at every distant sound. The forest, so alive during the day, had become almost silent around them. Even the usual distant bird calls had stopped. Time felt suspended. He inched closer, careful not to startle the animal. The box was fully exposed now, its weathered carvings etched with intricate patterns. He crouched just enough to get a better look at the symbols. They were not random, some formed geometric patterns, others suggested figures or faces, though weathered by time. The man ran a finger along one edge, imagining the hands that had carved it decades ago. His focus was entirely on the object, but he could feel the bear's presence as much as see it. It was almost as if the bear were silently guiding him, teaching him patience. He realized that this moment, delicate as it was, required trust. Not the kind you demanded, but the kind earned, through respect and observation. He paused, letting the bear dictate the pace. Minutes stretched like hours. Every sound, the distant rush of a river, the faint rustle of leaves, heightened the tension. He finally allowed himself to lean just a little closer to peek inside the box. The bundle wrapped in aged leather was visible now, tied with a thin, fraying cord. His hands trembled slightly as he reached out. Before he could touch it, the bear lifted a massive paw and lightly pressed it against the bundle. The gesture was deliberate, not threatening, but instructive. He froze, awed by the animal's intelligence and awareness. It was communicating a single unspoken truth: proceed carefully, respect this, and understand it. He exhaled slowly, forcing his hands to still. Slowly, reverently, he loosened the leather cord, careful not to disturb the contents. As he pulled the bundle out, the smell of old parchment and leather filled his senses. The letters, yellowed with age, smelled faintly of smoke and soil, as if the forest itself had preserved them. The photographs were more shocking. Faces frozen in time, eyes staring straight into the camera, faces that spoke of lives once lived, stories untold. Some showed families, others individuals, all captured in moments of intimacy now long vanished. He realized that this box was a capsule of a forgotten world, preserved not by humans, but by the patience of this wild guardian. His fingers lingered over a small medallion, intricate engravings catching the last glint of light. He felt the weight of it, not heavy in a physical sense, but heavy with memory and history. The bear remained still, watching him, its gaze intense but calm. For a moment, the forest seemed to shrink around them, compressing history, nature, and human curiosity into a single fragile bubble. He flipped through a few of the letters. The handwriting was meticulous, faded with age, yet the emotion in every curve of the ink was palpable. Words of hope, of loss, of longing, of gratitude, messages to people long gone or perhaps never known. The human felt a lump form in his throat. He realized that these were not just artifacts, they were lives, memories, connections, the echoes of humanity preserved by the forest and this extraordinary bear. Suddenly, the forest stirred. A distant snapping of branches, faint but deliberate, made him flinch. His eyes darted toward the source, every muscle tensing. The bear stiffened, low growl rumbling through its chest. It was a protective sound, not directed at him, but at whatever intruder was approaching. The human froze, heart pounding, aware that the delicate balance of the moment could shatter in an instant. For what felt like eternity, they waited. Then the sound faded. The bear relaxed slightly but remained vigilant. The human took a slow breath, marveling at the quiet intelligence of the creature before him. He had witnessed patience, trust, and a kind of understanding that transcended species. He knew he could not stay here forever. Night was falling, and the forest held dangers he could not predict. Yet leaving felt impossible. This moment, the discovery, the connection, the silent understanding, was too precious to abandon. He made a decision: he would follow the bear further, deeper into the forest, wherever it led. The bear seemed to sense his decision. It nudged the bundle gently with its paw, then turned toward the denser part of the forest. Its movement was deliberate, measured, an invitation. The human hesitated a moment, feeling the weight of trust, then followed, stepping lightly on the damp forest floor. The path the bear led him along was narrow, winding, and littered with obstacles, fallen branches, rocks, thick underbrush. Every step required attention, every misstep a potential hazard. Yet the man felt a strange exhilaration. He was part of a story that was unfolding before him, guided by a creature both wild and wise. As they progressed, the forest darkened. Twilight surrendered to deepening shadows, and the outlines of the trees became ghostly silhouettes. Mist began to curl along the ground, adding to the otherworldly atmosphere. The bear paused occasionally, looking back as if to ensure the human was still following, and each pause reinforced the silent bond growing between them. Then, without warning, the bear stopped at a small depression in the forest floor. It sniffed the air, then looked directly at him. The human realized that this was more than a casual stop. The bear had led him here for a reason. His pulse quickened, questions swirling through his mind. What lay ahead? Was it another artifact? A hidden place? Or something entirely unexpected? He noticed a faint glow emerging from the mist ahead, something the bear seemed intent on showing him. The mist thickened as they moved deeper into the forest, softening the outlines of trees and making shadows twist in ways that unsettled him. Moonlight filtered through the dense canopy, pooling in pale silver patches on the forest floor. Each step he took was deliberate, mindful of the uneven ground and the fragile trust he had cultivated with the bear. The box had remained close to him, tucked carefully into the crook of his arms, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that the real discovery lay just ahead. The bear stopped suddenly at a slight rise in the terrain. Its massive head lifted, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the cool night air. The human froze in place, feeling the bear's intensity as a palpable force in the clearing. The forest was eerily silent now. Not a bird stirred, not a leaf whispered. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Ahead, in the faint moonlight, he could just make out the edges of another object, partially hidden under a tangle of roots and moss. There was a faint glow emanating from it, soft, almost ethereal. His pulse accelerated. He dared not move too quickly. The bear's posture was calm but alert, muscles coiled like springs, as though it understood the weight of this moment far better than he could. He inched forward, crouching low, his eyes wide as he tried to decipher what lay in front of him. The object was old, definitely not of recent construction. The glow seemed to seep from within the earth, reflecting off the damp moss and glinting faintly in the bear's dark eyes. A shiver ran down his spine. This was no ordinary forest find, it felt deliberate, preserved, almost sacred. The bear approached the object, paws careful on the soft forest floor. The human followed, holding his breath, conscious that one wrong step could startle the animal, or worse, trigger an instinctual defensive move. As they neared, he could see it more clearly, a weathered stone structure, half buried, with carvings that mirrored those on the wooden box. It was as if the bear had led him to a continuation of the story, an extension of whatever history the box contained. He knelt carefully beside it, heart pounding, and brushed away layers of moss and dirt. The carvings became more distinct under his fingers, patterns that suggested faces, figures, and scenes he could not fully comprehend. Every symbol seemed deliberate, telling stories frozen in time, preserved in the forest by the unlikeliest of guardians. His eyes fell on a shallow depression in the stone. It was just big enough to fit the medallion he had removed from the wooden box. As he held it over the indentation, the glow seemed to intensify, as if responding to the touch of the artifact. He looked at the bear. Its eyes were wide and luminous in the moonlight, and its gaze was fixed on him with a mix of expectation and reassurance. He hesitated. The human mind raced with questions. Was this a ritual site? A marker of some long-lost family, tribe, or pioneer? Why was the bear drawn to this place? Why had it led him here? Yet, despite the uncertainty, an overwhelming sense of connection gripped him. He felt the bear's patience, its silent guidance, and allowed instinct to take over. Slowly, deliberately, he placed the medallion into the depression. For a moment, nothing happened. The forest held its breath, the mist curling around them in motionless anticipation. Then, as if responding to a hidden mechanism, the indentation in the stone glowed brighter, illuminating the carvings around it. Shadows danced across the forest floor, revealing more intricate scenes, people, animals, tools, and structures, all telling a story frozen in time. His breath caught. The letters, the photographs, the medallion, and now these carvings, they were all part of a larger narrative, a fragment of history preserved not by humans, but by the bear that had intuitively known the importance of safeguarding it. The weight of realization pressed upon him. He had stumbled upon something profound, something that transcended ordinary discovery. The bear stepped back slightly, giving him space, but its gaze remained fixed. Its protective stance seemed to suggest that it had known he would understand, or that it trusted him to respect the significance of what he had uncovered. He felt a shiver of awe. There was intelligence here, beyond instinct. There was a depth of understanding and foresight that was almost human. He ran his fingers over the carvings, reading the scenes as best he could. Faces turned toward one another, hands reaching, objects being exchanged, rituals, messages, gestures of connection. The human felt an almost spiritual weight, the realization that he was not just witnessing artifacts, but entering into the preserved memory of a life, a community, a bond between humans and nature itself. Then, unexpectedly, a faint rustle echoed through the misty trees behind him. The sound made him flinch. The bear's head snapped toward the noise, ears erect, muscles tensed. He held his breath, heart pounding. Was it another human? Or some predator drawn to the glowing stone? The forest seemed to shrink around them, shadows compressing the space into tension and anticipation. The bear growled softly, not in aggression, but as a warning. The human understood immediately: stay calm, observe, respect. His fear mingled with awe, and he felt a deeper connection to this creature, the forest, and the history they were uncovering together. Finally, the bear lowered its head, letting out a long, slow exhale. The danger had passed, for now, but the forest remained alive with secrets. The human realized that the night's events were far from over. The carvings, the medallion, the wooden box, all pointed to a truth yet to be revealed, something that could change his understanding of the forest, of history, and of the intelligence hidden within the wild. He looked at the bear, and for the first time, he spoke softly, "Thank you for bringing me here." The bear tilted its massive head, eyes glinting in the silver light, as if acknowledging the sentiment. And in that moment, a fragile trust solidified, an unspoken understanding that they were partners in discovery, bound by respect and curiosity. As he examined the glowing stone more closely, a faint sound, metallic, deliberate, echoed from deeper within the forest, hinting at another secret waiting to be revealed. He knelt in the misty clearing, heart still racing from the tension of the previous moments. The bear sat a few feet away, its presence calm but commanding, a steady reassurance amidst the mystery. The human carefully untied the frayed leather cord of the bundle he had retrieved from the wooden box. The leather was supple despite its age, carrying the faint scent of earth, smoke, and something almost metallic, a smell that whispered of history preserved through generations. Slowly, he unfurled the leather to reveal its contents. Old letters, carefully stacked, their edges worn and yellowed with time, lay atop several photographs and, at the very bottom, the small medallion that had first drawn his attention. His fingers trembled slightly as he picked up the first letter, brushing away decades of dust. The handwriting was elegant, flowing, and unmistakably human, a connection to a time long before the forest had claimed it. As he read, the words resonated with vivid emotion, letters written by a family who had once lived near this forest, detailing survival, loss, hope, and the daily struggles of life on the frontier. Some letters were intimate, personal, recounting birthdays, tragedies, and fleeting joys. Others carried instructions, messages meant to preserve knowledge and memories for those who might come after. He felt as if he were touching lives long gone, brought momentarily back into the world through the careful preservation of the bear. The photographs were equally compelling. Faces frozen in time stared back at him, eyes full of stories he would never fully know. A young boy with a crooked smile, a woman with gentle eyes, a family gathered beside a modest cabin, all images faded, yet sharp enough to convey the depth of human experience. It was clear these items were more than memorabilia, they were echoes of lives, captured and safeguarded with painstaking care. At the bottom of the bundle, the medallion rested in his palm. The metal was worn smooth, but intricate engravings adorned its surface, names, dates, and symbols echoing the carvings on the stone site. It was a bridge between the tangible artifacts and the mysterious, glowing carvings in the forest. He traced the symbols with his finger, feeling the weight of time and the deliberate act of preservation. The bear, never leaving its vigil, shifted slightly, sniffing the air as if to ensure the human understood the gravity of the moment. The human suddenly realized the bear was not merely a wild creature acting on instinct, it was a guardian, a preserver of memory, an intelligence that had, for reasons unknown, taken responsibility for safeguarding this family's history. He felt a deep respect rising within him, an awe bordering on reverence. Questions swirled through his mind. How had the bear come to understand the significance of these items? How long had it been guarding them? And why had it chosen him to witness this? He realized that he was now part of the story, an intermediary between the past and the present, a human entrusted with history preserved not by people, but by an extraordinary creature of the wild. He carefully examined the medallion again. Its engravings mirrored the patterns on the stone site, the same figures, faces, and symbols he had seen in the glowing carvings. It was as though the medallion was a key, a connector between the human world and the silent intelligence of the forest. The realization struck him with sudden clarity. The bear had not only been guarding the artifacts, it had been guiding him, showing him the path to understanding, ensuring that these fragments of human history were never forgotten. The weight of the discovery pressed on him. This was not simply a find in the forest, it was an encounter with intelligence, memory, and trust that defied explanation. He understood that his own actions mattered now. How he treated this knowledge, how he respected the bear and its role, would determine whether the story remained preserved or was lost to the reckless hands of humans. A sudden rustle from the underbrush startled him. The bear's ears twitched, head rising, muscles tensed. He froze, the medallion still in his hand. Shadows flickered across the misty forest floor, and he realized with a jolt that he was not entirely alone. Another presence moved through the forest, perhaps a wandering animal, or worse, another human. The bear emitted a low, steady growl, a warning and a reassurance simultaneously. He felt a surge of gratitude and fear simultaneously. The bear's protective stance allowed him to continue examining the bundle, but the subtle tension in its body reminded him that the forest could turn dangerous in an instant. He continued to read the letters, examining the photographs with care, aware that each discovery was a trust extended to him by both history and the guardian beside him. The human's fingers lingered on a photograph of a small child, a boy who bore an uncanny resemblance to someone he knew in his own family. A strange chill ran down his spine. Could this be coincidence? Or was the forest, the bear, somehow orchestrating the discovery to connect him to these lives? The thought was unsettling yet intoxicating. He felt as though he were being guided through a living memory, each step carefully chosen to teach him something profound about life, trust, and empathy. As he lifted the medallion again, he noticed an engraving he had missed before, a tiny map-like figure etched on the back, pointing to a location that coincided with the glowing stone site. It was a revelation that made his heart leap. The bear had not only been protecting these items, it had been directing him toward a deeper secret, a hidden truth preserved through time. The bear moved closer, sniffing the medallion as if approving of the human's understanding. Its eyes held a depth of comprehension, a silent affirmation that he had grasped the significance. The human felt tears prick his eyes, a mixture of wonder, gratitude, and humility. He realized that this night, this encounter, would change him forever, not just as a witness of history, but as a participant in an unspoken covenant between humans and the wild. Then, unexpectedly, a faint metallic echo sounded from deeper within the forest. The human froze, looking up from the bundle, and noticed the bear's gaze harden, focused intently in the direction of the sound. Its posture shifted subtly, alert, protective, yet calm. The forest seemed to hold its breath with them, the mist swirling like smoke around the tree trunks, and the moonlight casting long, spectral shadows. He understood immediately, this night held more revelations, more truths waiting to be uncovered. The bear had not yet finished guiding him. The human's heart raced with anticipation and fear. Whatever lay ahead, he knew he was no longer a mere observer. He was part of a story written in time, guarded by a creature whose intelligence and loyalty transcended instinct. A faint glow appeared beyond the trees, pulsating softly, as if the forest itself was drawing him and the bear toward the next secret. The human followed the bear cautiously, every step measured, every footfall mindful of the damp, uneven forest floor. The glow ahead pulsed softly through the mist, almost like a heartbeat, drawing him deeper into the wilderness. His mind was a swirl of questions and awe. The bundle in his hands, the letters, photographs, medallion, felt heavier now, not from weight, but from the significance of the history it carried. Each artifact seemed alive, holding whispers of people who had long since vanished, preserved by the most unlikely guardian, this bear. The bear moved ahead with a deliberate grace, nostrils flaring, muscles tensed but controlled. It paused occasionally, looking back to ensure the human was still following. Every time their eyes met, he felt a silent communication pass between them, a fragile bond of trust forming in the quiet of the night. He had never felt such intimacy with a wild animal, yet here it was, a connection deeper than words, built on patience, respect, and shared purpose. The mist swirled thicker around them as they approached a cluster of towering trees. The glow emanated from a clearing just beyond, casting eerie shadows that danced across the underbrush. The human felt a shiver of anticipation mixed with fear. The forest, usually familiar in its patterns, had transformed into a labyrinth of secrets, each shadow hinting at hidden truths. The bear, however, moved with confidence, as if it had walked this path countless times, guiding him through unseen dangers with unerring instinct. He took a careful step forward, feeling the soft give of moss underfoot. The letters rustled in his backpack, the medallion warm in his palm. He glanced down at it again, tracing the engravings, feeling the connection to the glowing carvings they had discovered earlier. Every symbol, every letter, seemed to echo a story he could only begin to imagine. The bear had led him here for a reason, he could feel it, and he knew he had to trust it completely. Suddenly, a sound cracked through the stillness, a faint, deliberate metallic clink from the clearing ahead. The bear froze, ears erect, muscles coiled. The human's heart leapt into his throat. Something moved in the shadows, something deliberate enough to command attention but too distant to identify clearly. His pulse raced, but he forced himself to stay calm, trusting the bear's instincts. The bear stepped forward slowly, head low, eyes fixed on the source of the sound. The human followed, careful to remain silent, aware that any sudden movement could disturb the delicate balance of the moment. As they drew closer, he could make out a faint outline, a structure hidden among the dense trees, partially illuminated by the glow that seemed to emanate from within. It was older than anything he had seen so far, moss-covered and weathered, yet it radiated significance, a presence that demanded reverence. The bear paused at the edge of the clearing, looking back at him. Its gaze was steady, almost expectant, as if inviting him to step forward with reverence, to share in whatever lay ahead. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the night pressing down, the mystery, the history, and the trust between them. Slowly, deliberately, he entered the clearing. The structure was a small, stone enclosure, covered in intricate carvings that mirrored those on the wooden box and the glowing stone. Symbols of faces, animals, tools, and scenes of human life covered every surface. The air was thick with the scent of earth and moss, and a faint, almost imperceptible hum seemed to resonate from the stones themselves. He felt an overwhelming sense of connection, as if the forest itself was alive, whispering the stories it had preserved for decades. He knelt beside the enclosure, placing the medallion into a shallow depression in the stone. The glow intensified, illuminating the carvings and revealing details previously hidden in shadow. The letters and photographs he had brought seemed to vibrate with energy, as though the human presence and the bear's guidance had activated something ancient and waiting. The forest seemed to lean in, silent, holding its breath, allowing him to witness this convergence of past and present. The bear sat nearby, calm but vigilant, eyes scanning the shadows. Its presence was reassuring, a reminder that he was not alone in this fragile communion. He realized then that this was more than a discovery, it was a dialogue between generations, between species, a bridge connecting human history with the intelligence and memory of the natural world. He lifted the letters again, feeling the weight of each story, and began to read aloud softly, letting the words mingle with the night air. The bear's ears twitched at each syllable, attentive, as if understanding the gravity of the recited messages. He could feel a bond forming, not only between him and the bear but between himself and the lives long past, whose memories had been safeguarded through time. The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth, and the glow pulsed slightly stronger. The human realized with awe that the bear had orchestrated this moment, guiding him to the precise location where the stories, the artifacts, and the intelligence of the forest converged. He felt an emotional swell, a profound gratitude for this silent guardian who had chosen him to witness, to understand, to carry the memory forward. Time seemed to stretch. He could feel the forest's presence, the weight of history, and the unspoken understanding that this night, this encounter, was sacred. He looked at the bear, whose gaze held an almost human intelligence, and felt an unbreakable connection, an acknowledgement that their paths had crossed for a purpose. Then, a sudden movement in the shadows, something larger than any animal he expected, made him freeze. The bear's growl was low, resonant, vibrating through the clearing. It stood, shifting its massive weight between him and the unknown presence, muscles taut. The human's heart raced, but he remained still, trusting the animal that had led him this far. The clearing held its breath, shadows stretching and twisting as the moment reached its peak tension. The human realized that whatever lay beyond was the next step in a story that had begun decades before, a narrative preserved by a guardian of unparalleled patience and intelligence. A sudden shimmer across the moss-covered stones revealed a hidden compartment, one the bear's paw had brushed against as they arrived, an entirely new secret waiting to be unveiled. The human's eyes widened as he noticed the shimmer along the moss-covered stones, a thin, nearly invisible seam that hinted at a hidden compartment. The bear had paused beside the structure, massive head lowered, as if nudging him toward the discovery without speaking. Every fiber of his being was tense, anticipation coiling in his chest like a living thing. He could feel the pulse of the forest, as though it too was aware of the significance of the moment. Carefully, he crouched closer, brushing aside the damp moss that clung stubbornly to the edges of the slot. The compartment was shallow but long enough to hold something small yet meaningful. His fingers traced the outline of the recess, and for the first time, he realized that the bear had not just guided him to the box and the glowing stones, it had led him here, to this very secret, for reasons he could only begin to comprehend. Inside the slot lay a bundle wrapped in a piece of cloth that had yellowed and frayed over time. The human lifted it gently, as if it were a fragile treasure, and in a sense, it was. Inside were objects far older and more personal than anything he had seen before, a small carved figurine, several folded letters, and another medallion, smaller than the first but engraved with matching symbols. The craftsmanship was exquisite, delicate yet enduring, each piece telling stories of the people who had once called this place home. He ran his fingers over the figurine, noting the precision and care that had gone into its creation. It depicted a human figure reaching out to a bear, a scene so familiar it took his breath away. His gaze lifted to the bear sitting silently beside him, massive form exuding calm authority, and he realized the connection. The artifact was not merely symbolic, it was literal. The people who had left these items had understood the bear's intelligence, its guardianship, and had created a tangible acknowledgement of that bond. A sudden gust of wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine. He shivered, not from cold, but from the overwhelming weight of the moment. The forest seemed alive, vibrating with stories, memories, and the presence of the bear that had guided him this far. He felt an almost spiritual reverence, the sense that he was standing at the intersection of past and present, human and animal, history and nature. The letters were equally revealing. Carefully unfolded, the handwriting spoke of gratitude toward the guardian bear, respect for its intelligence, and hope that someday, someone like him would come to understand. One letter described a ritual, a silent acknowledgement between human and bear, a promise to preserve knowledge and stories. The human felt a lump rise in his throat. He realized he had become part of that promise, the latest in a line of witnesses entrusted with history. He placed the smaller medallion beside the figurine, and the carvings on both pieces seemed to align with the glowing patterns on the stone structure. The interplay of moonlight, glow, and reflective metal created a surreal tableau: human history, forest preservation, and animal intelligence converging in one sacred space. The human's heartbeat accelerated with awe. The bear shifted slightly, eyes following his movements, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the air. Its presence was grounding, reminding him that while the artifacts were precious, the living guardian beside him was the key to understanding and respecting them. Every movement of the bear communicated intention, every glance an unspoken message. He felt humbled by the realization that he was witnessing something beyond ordinary comprehension, a collaboration between human and nature preserved across decades. A faint metallic echo from deeper in the forest made him freeze. The bear stiffened instantly, ears erect, muscles taut. Shadows danced around them as the moonlight and mist created ghostly illusions. He felt a surge of fear, but it was tempered by trust. The bear was alert, aware, and protective. He realized that this creature had not only guided him to these treasures but had also shielded them, and him, from unknown threats along the way. He glanced at the figurine again, the depiction of a human reaching out to a bear. It was more than art, it was instruction. The bear beside him mirrored the figurine's calm vigilance, and he understood the truth that had been whispered through time: intelligence, empathy, and guardianship were not limited to humans. This forest, these artifacts, and this bear were teaching him a profound lesson about respect, connection, and interdependence. The human carefully replaced the items in the hidden compartment, mindful not to disturb the arrangement. He realized that part of his responsibility was not to remove, but to observe and protect, to act as a steward of history just as the bear had. Every action, every choice mattered. The forest seemed to pulse in acknowledgement, the mist swirling around them in silent celebration of his understanding. As he stood, he felt a rush of gratitude and awe. The bear had not merely led him to artifacts, it had guided him to understanding, to emotional insight, and to a recognition of trust and guardianship that transcended species. He reached out to the animal, a slow, deliberate gesture of connection. The bear sniffed his hand, eyes meeting his with a quiet affirmation, as if acknowledging that he had grasped the significance of the night. Time stretched, suspended in a delicate balance of moonlight, mist, and silent understanding. The human realized that he would carry this moment forever, not as a mere discovery, but as a profound lesson in empathy, respect, and the enduring bonds between humans and nature. From the corner of his eye, he noticed faint footsteps approaching, larger than human, moving deliberately toward the clearing. The bear stiffened, and a low growl rumbled from its chest, signaling that the next revelation might come with danger. The human froze, the pulse of the forest quickening in his chest. He could see the faint outlines of movement through the mist, a presence larger than any human, deliberate and silent, approaching the clearing. The bear shifted slightly, muscles taut, standing as a living barrier between the intruder and the treasures they were guarding. The low growl emanating from its chest reverberated through the clearing, a warning that echoed against the ancient trees. Fear surged, but the human's awe and trust in the bear anchored him. He understood that this creature was not only a guardian of history but also of him, and of the sacred knowledge preserved in this forest. He took a slow, steadying breath, trying to reconcile the excitement of discovery with the sudden surge of danger. Through the swirling mist, he could see a figure emerge, a man, rugged, cautious, moving with the precision of someone accustomed to wilderness. His eyes, sharp in the moonlight, were fixed on the glowing stone structure. The human's heart raced. Who was this? A historian? A treasure hunter? Or someone with more sinister intentions? The bear's growl deepened, low and resonant, a rumble that spoke volumes about its awareness and its readiness to defend. The human instinctively stepped closer to the animal, seeking both physical and emotional reassurance. He clutched the medallions and letters, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on him. This was no longer merely an adventure, it was a test of trust, courage, and understanding. The approaching figure paused at the edge of the clearing, seemingly sensing the presence of the bear. For a moment, time stretched. The forest was silent but alive with anticipation, mist curling like living tendrils around the roots and rocks. The human could see the glint of a tool or object in the intruder's hand, though the distance and darkness made it impossible to identify clearly. The bear stepped forward slightly, massive paws pressing into the soft forest floor. Its posture was assertive but controlled, communicating both warning and protection. The human realized with awe that the animal was negotiating this encounter with intelligence and foresight. It understood the stakes, the threat, and the importance of the artifacts far beyond instinct alone. He took a tentative step forward, speaking softly, It's okay. But please, respect this place." His voice barely carried, yet it was enough for the bear to acknowledge his presence. The animal's ears flicked, eyes scanning the intruder, its growl softening slightly as it gauged intent. The intruder shifted, then slowly lowered the object in his hand, a small metal detector or perhaps a rudimentary excavation tool. He took a careful step back, the tension in his posture easing just enough to reveal curiosity rather than immediate hostility. The human's mind raced. Should he approach? Should he retreat? But before he could act, the bear moved deliberately, guiding him to take a step forward, signaling a silent permission to engage cautiously. As he advanced, he noticed the intruder's gaze fall on the hidden compartment, the medallions, and the figurine. Recognition flickered across his expression, an understanding that this was not ordinary treasure. The human felt a surge of empathy for the man. He realized that whoever this was, they too might be drawn by history, by the desire to connect with the lives preserved here. The bear, sensing no immediate threat, settled back slightly, yet remained watchful. Its eyes never left the intruder, communicating a vigilance that transcended language. The human spoke again, voice firmer now. These items, they're not just artifacts. They're memories, preserved through trust. Please, understand their importance. The intruder's expression shifted, the tension in his shoulders easing as comprehension dawned. He stepped closer, hesitating at the edge of the glowing light, then lowered himself respectfully to examine the carvings, medallions, and letters. His breath was soft, reverent. He muttered under his breath, perhaps recognizing names, symbols, or the deliberate care in preservation. The human felt a profound sense of relief. The bear's low growl faded, replaced by a calm presence. It had assessed the new arrival, judged the intent, and permitted cautious engagement. He realized the depth of the bond he had witnessed, the animal's ability to mediate, to protect history, and to guide humans toward understanding. He stepped closer to the hidden compartment and carefully opened it once more, revealing the figurine, letters, and medallions to both himself and the intruder. The glow from the stone structure highlighted the carvings and symbols, creating a tableau that seemed suspended in time. The forest itself seemed to lean in, observing the human interactions, the respect, and the reverence that the night demanded. As he lifted the letters, the intruder's voice broke the silence, soft and filled with awe. These are incredible. I thought they were lost forever. The human nodded, realizing that the bear's guidance had orchestrated not only the preservation of history but also the teaching of empathy and respect. This was more than discovery, it was communion across generations, species, and time. The bear stepped closer to the compartment again, its presence a reminder that the sacred trust remained. The human and the intruder exchanged quiet glances, understanding that this was not a moment for possession or exploitation, but for guardianship. The medallions were held carefully, the letters read with reverence, and the figurine placed back exactly as it had been found. A sudden shift in the forest caught the human's attention, another faint shimmer in the mist, deeper within the trees. The bear's ears twitched, its gaze fixed. The intruder followed the line of sight, realization dawning that this discovery was layered, a series of secrets waiting to be revealed step by step. The human took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of fear, awe, and exhilaration. He realized that the night's events had created not only a connection between himself and the bear but also with the intruder, forming a silent pact to respect, preserve, and honor the hidden histories of the forest. The artifacts, the carvings, and the bear's guidance had created a bridge between past and present, human and animal, memory and preservation. A sudden rustle and glint of movement beyond the trees signaled yet another layer of mystery, hinting that the forest's secrets were far from fully revealed, and that the bear's guidance was only just beginning. The first hints of dawn began to filter through the dense canopy, casting a gentle, golden glow over the clearing. The mist hung low, curling around moss-covered roots and stones, giving the forest an almost sacred quality. The human had settled near the glowing stone structure, carefully spreading the letters and photographs before him. The medallions rested beside the figurine, catching the soft morning light, their engravings glinting as if holding tiny fragments of the rising sun. The bear remained nearby, massive body relaxed but alert, a living sentinel. Its eyes tracked the human's movements with a quiet intelligence, conveying reassurance, protection, and the silent approval of each delicate action. The human felt a swell of emotion, a deep gratitude for this creature that had led him through the forest, guided him to the hidden history, and ensured that every secret was revealed with reverence. The intruder stayed at the edge of the clearing, observing with quiet awe. He had remained largely silent since entering the forest, absorbing the lessons of trust and guardianship unfolding before him. Now, he stepped closer cautiously, taking in the glow of the stone, the carefully preserved artifacts, and the bear's watchful presence. He seemed to understand, intuitively, that this was not a place for possession, only for respect and preservation. The human began to speak softly, reading aloud passages from the letters. His voice mingled with the faint sounds of the forest waking, a distant bird call, the rustle of leaves, the subtle hum of life returning with the dawn. Each word carried weight, each sentence a bridge connecting him to people who had long passed but whose memories had been meticulously safeguarded by this extraordinary bear. The bear shifted closer, resting its massive head on its paws near the human. Its presence was comforting, grounding, as though it too were listening, acknowledging the stories being told aloud. The human felt a profound connection to the animal, a recognition that trust and guardianship were not bound by species. He realized that the bear had not only led him to the artifacts but had ensured that he would understand their significance, the depth of human experience, the value of memory, and the power of quiet, unwavering protection. The intruder knelt respectfully, lowering himself to the human's level without disturbing the artifacts. I can't believe this," he murmured. "It's incredible. These people, they trusted someone or something to preserve their story for decades." His eyes flicked toward the bear, now lying still but clearly aware of the conversation. "And somehow, it's you they trusted tonight." The human nodded, his gaze lingering on the bear. "It's not just me. It's the bear. It guided me. Protected these stories. It's extraordinary." He paused, brushing a fingertip over the edge of the wooden figurine, marveling at the intentionality embedded in each object. Every step, every pause, every decision, it led to this. To understanding. To respect. The bear stirred, lifting its head slightly and giving a long, slow exhale. It was a reminder of the connection forged through patience and careful observation, a creature bridging centuries of memory between humans and the wild. The human felt tears prick his eyes, not from fear, not from danger, but from awe and humility. This encounter was transforming him. The intruder remained silent, absorbing the atmosphere, allowing the human and the bear to maintain the delicate balance. A quiet understanding settled over the clearing. The night's tension had passed, replaced by reverence, connection, and shared guardianship. The forest seemed to exhale along with them, mist curling gently as sunlight strengthened, illuminating the carvings, medallions, and letters in a gentle, revealing glow. He carefully began to place the letters and photographs back into the hidden compartment. Every movement was deliberate, precise, a ritual of respect. The bear observed, calm but alert, ensuring that nothing was mishandled. The human realized that the act of returning the artifacts was as important as discovering them, honoring the trust of the past and preserving it for the future. The glow from the stone structure began to fade as daylight strengthened, but it left a residual warmth, a soft reminder that the forest held its secrets close yet shared them with those who approached with patience, respect, and reverence. The human ran his fingers over the medallions one last time, feeling the engraved symbols beneath his touch. He understood now that they represented more than memory, they were markers of guardianship, empathy, and trust that transcended time. The bear rose slowly, massive form graceful in its movement. It nudged the human gently with its head, an acknowledgement of the bond forged, and then moved toward the edge of the clearing, scanning the forest. The intruder stepped back instinctively, recognizing that the bear's role as guardian extended beyond the artifacts. It encompassed the safety and balance of the forest itself. The human stood, taking a deep breath, feeling the profound weight of the night's revelations. He looked at the bear, eyes meeting in a silent exchange of gratitude, understanding, and respect. The bond forged was not fleeting, it was enduring, an unspoken promise between human and animal, a testament to the intelligence, patience, and guardianship inherent in nature. He glanced back at the hidden compartment, now safely concealed beneath moss and stone. The letters, medallions, and figurine were preserved, their stories intact, safeguarded by both the forest and its extraordinary sentinel. The human realized he had become part of a lineage of witnesses, entrusted with carrying the memory forward without disturbance or exploitation. The intruder, standing quietly at the clearing's edge, finally spoke, "I've never seen anything like this. You've been guided by something beyond understanding. And you honored it." He looked at the bear with awe, his voice hushed. This is incredible." The human nodded. "It is. And it's a reminder, sometimes the greatest guardians aren't human. Sometimes the wild protects memory, life, and trust in ways we can barely comprehend." He felt a swell of humility and gratitude, understanding that his life had been irrevocably changed by this night, this forest, and this remarkable bear. The mist swirled, and from deeper within the forest, a faint shimmer hinted at yet another secret, a final layer of history waiting to reveal itself, but only to those who had proven themselves worthy of trust. The first rays of morning sunlight cut through the mist, painting the forest in shades of gold and green. The clearing was transformed, no longer tense with the mystery and danger of the night, but luminous with quiet understanding and reverence. The human stood near the glowing stone structure, taking in the beauty and the profound stillness. The letters, photographs, medallions, and figurine were safely replaced within their hidden compartments, preserved exactly as the bear and those who had come before intended. He felt a deep, unshakable gratitude for the bear, whose calm presence had guided him through the night's revelations, protected the artifacts, and quietly instructed him in patience, respect, and empathy. Its massive form exuded both strength and serenity, a living testament to the intelligence and guardianship embedded in the natural world. For the first time, he truly understood the depth of the bond between human and animal, one built on trust, intuition, and shared purpose. The intruder stood quietly at the edge of the clearing, absorbing the significance of the moment. His initial apprehension had been replaced by awe and humility. He observed how the human and the bear interacted, realizing that this was more than a discovery. It was a lesson in guardianship, a testament to the delicate balance between curiosity and respect. He felt honored to witness it and quietly acknowledged the bear as the rightful guardian of these secrets. The human knelt beside the hidden compartment one last time, brushing away the moss and dirt that had partially concealed it. He touched the medallions gently, feeling the carvings beneath his fingertips, as if connecting once more with the lives they represented. The letters whispered stories across time, and he could almost hear the voices of the people who had entrusted the bear with their memories. Their presence, though intangible, filled the clearing with a sense of continuity and purpose. He straightened, taking a deep breath of the crisp forest air. The events of the night had changed him in ways he could not fully articulate. He realized that discovery alone was meaningless without understanding, without respect, without the willingness to carry forward what had been entrusted. The bear had been his teacher, protector, and guide, an extraordinary force of nature bridging centuries, species, and memory. A soft rustle from the forest reminded him that life moved quietly, often unseen, yet always present. The bear rose to its feet, massive form shifting gracefully as it approached him. Its eyes held a quiet intelligence, a recognition of their shared journey. It lowered its head, allowing him a moment of closeness. He reached out slowly, placing a hand against its muzzle, feeling warmth, strength, and a profound sense of trust. The intruder stepped closer, speaking softly. "I've learned more tonight than I could ever have imagined," he admitted. "It's not just about history. It's about guardianship, respect, and connection. Watching you and him, I feel like I've witnessed something sacred." The human nodded, eyes still on the bear. "It's true. This isn't just about the past. It's about understanding that trust and empathy aren't bound by species or time. Sometimes, the guardians of memory are not human, they're creatures of the wild, and we are lucky if we are chosen to witness it." The bear shifted slightly, as if acknowledging his words, then turned to face the dense forest beyond the clearing. Its posture was relaxed yet vigilant, a silent reminder that its role as protector and guide was ongoing. The human felt a swell of gratitude, realizing that the bond they had forged would endure beyond the confines of this clearing, beyond the artifacts, and beyond the night's revelations. He took a step back, glancing at the hidden compartment, and whispered a quiet promise, "I will honor this. I will carry it forward with respect." The bear's ears twitched, its eyes meeting his with an almost human understanding, affirming that the message had been received and accepted. The intruder remained silent, watching as the human and the bear shared a final moment of connection. He could sense the depth of the relationship, the trust and mutual understanding that had developed over the night. There was no need for words, the emotions, respect, and gratitude were conveyed clearly in the subtle gestures, the shared glances, and the quiet presence of two beings bound by a profound experience. The human finally stood, feeling the cool morning air fill his lungs. He looked around the clearing one last time, taking in the glowing stone, the moss-covered roots, and the serene beauty of the forest. The night's tension and danger had given way to a sense of purpose and clarity. He understood now that his role was not to exploit the secrets he had discovered, but to protect them, just as the bear had done for decades. He turned to the bear, eyes meeting once more. The animal gave a low, rumbling exhale, a sound that conveyed both affirmation and farewell. Slowly, deliberately, the bear began to move back into the forest, each step measured and graceful, disappearing into the misty depths while keeping one final watchful glance on the human. The intruder followed at a respectful distance, silent in reverence. The human remained standing, absorbing the moment, feeling a sense of fulfillment, understanding, and profound connection with the natural world. He realized that this encounter had forever altered his perception of history, memory, and the intelligence embedded in the wild. As he began to make his way back along the forest path, he felt a deep, lasting gratitude for the bear's guidance and protection. The night's events would stay with him forever, not as a mere story of discovery, but as a testament to trust, empathy, and the bonds that transcend species and time. The forest, the artifacts, and the bear had taught him a lesson in patience, guardianship, and reverence for life. Reaching the edge of the clearing, he glanced back one last time. The bear was gone from view, but its presence lingered, a silent, enduring guardian whose lessons would continue to resonate. He smiled, a quiet, emotional smile, knowing that he had been entrusted with something far greater than simple history, a living connection to the past, the wisdom of nature, and the enduring power of trust. Sometimes, the greatest guardians aren't the ones we expect. Sometimes, the wild protects memory, trust, and history in ways we can barely comprehend. If you ever find yourself in the wilderness, remember to observe, to respect, and to honor the unseen guardians among us. You never know what lessons, or what bonds, you might discover. As he disappeared along the forest path, a final shimmer of light flickered from the hidden compartment, suggesting that the forest still holds secrets yet to be revealed, waiting for those patient enough to earn its trust.